This is Gemara Sanhedrin Daf Nun Ches. We pulled up a little early yesterday towards the second half of Nun Zayin Omid Beis, about 15 lines in the bottom. The first word of the line is Hadar. Today's shir should be an incredible schos Rafua Shalima for Tinok ben Mrim Ahuva B'Seich Sha'ar Chayle Yisrael. We pick it up, Tanu Rabbanan, going back at something we learned approximately a daf ago. On Involvement Bees, we learned we're dealing with the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noyach, and we learned a differentiation, a difference, a chilik between Dinim Klape Yisraelim and Klape B'nei Noyach regarding the due court process. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Ish Ma Talmud Loimar, and I'm in the wrong place. I apologize. 1 second. Talmud Loimar, says the Gemara, continuing the drasha. 1 second. I cannot find my Gemara in front of me. I think the highlighting is up and going. It says the Gemara, here we go one more time. Tanu Rabbanan Ish. Matam Loimar Ish. Here we go. Matam Loimar Ish. Why does he say the word Ish 2 times? Le Rabbi, he says, Kutim shemuzar na l'rayis ki Yisrael. Kutim are muzar l'rayis, just like a yid. Ask the Gemara of Ha'ma'acha nafka me'asa nafka. We learned it out from a different pasuk that says what leimar is like Gili Arayis, as we've learned, and therefore the dinim of Gili Arayis applies universally both by Yidin and by Goyim. And I just to apologize, I started off saying we're learning a chilik between the due process. That was the top of the Amud. We're further. Now we're in the dinim of Arayis as they relate between Yidin and Goyim. Says the Gemara, Hasam answers Gemara, Barayis did who? V'ach Barayis did done. The difference between the two psukim, over there we're talking about Arayis did who? If a guy is having Arayis adultery with another guy, Hacha Barayis did done, if it's with a Yid, Tani Seifa, it says at the end of the Braisa, Bal Arayis Yisrael, Nidin Medina Yisrael, and that's what the extra pasuk comes to include. Ask the Gemara, Lamay Chasa. What are we discussing? That what level of Arayis is that which we are discussing? That there's going to be this din with a special limud of Arayis with a Yid versus with a guy. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Rabula Nitzcha Ella Le'idam Ve'idim Ve'hasra Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Now we need to know Klape, the din of the Ida, the judges, the Edim, and the Hasra. Says, whoa, 1 second. Migra Gara. What are you talking about? It's even lower level. Now what's the din? Dila did who, less lehu, dinat, less lehu. Dinan. One more time. Dil did who, less lehu, dinan, lehu, bedine didan. The special din of Naira Murasa is a din dafko with a yid. So the extra pasuk of ish teaches us that if a ben noyach, a guy, has illicit illegal relations with a naya marasa, you're going to get the same punishment as a yid that would be over such an avera. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Ish. Bidine did who? Daininalu. Tell me an ishes ish is going to be judged based on did who? Based on the bnei noyach. V'atanya, we learned in a brayso ba'al ne'er maras, nidan b'eskila, alishes ish, nidan b'chanek. V'bedina did ho, sayifu. But if it's going by their halachas, the special halachas of bnei noyach, then a ben noyach should be chayiv sayif. Answers the Gemara on the first white line. Amram nacham v'yitzah, my ishes ish tegatani ki goyin shenichlas al lechaba. We're talking about a specific case of Isha's Ish, talking about a case in which she went to a chuppah, however, she was not yet together with her husband. According to the Bnei Noyach Lesu, there's no din, there's no chiv in such a case. Because in Bnei Noyach, there was no marriage that happened, because there's no chuppah. Chuppah is a Yiddish halacha. So in that case of of Isha's Ish, we're going to judge the Bnei Noach like a Yid and give them the death penalty. Te'tani, b'dini dantani Rav Chanina, ba'ulas Baal, yesh lahen, yesh lahen nechzal l'chuppah, v'loy nivla, ein lahem. The halacha of ba'ulas Baal, meaning from here we're really learning a fundamental din of what is considered marriage for the Goyim. The Gemara is explaining Ba'ulas Baal. Once there's a union, once there's a bia, once there's a relationship, that's the moment that there is the marriage. But Nichlas al chuppah, the fact that there was a chuppah, there was a marriage ceremony, that is not. Says the Gemara, I'll bring you a riot. Ben Noyach Moser Aleha, in Bezin Shayisam and Bisin Alav, Bezin of Yidin are not warned. Are not, we're not killing. Mrim. Harbe Arayis Yesh. Shein Bezin Shayisam and Bisin Alav. What do you mean? There's many cases. Explains the Brisa. What is such a case? Bal Arayis Yisrael. If a guy is together with a married Yisraelis, then Nidin B'din Yisrael. Bal Arayis Ben Noyach. Nidin B'din Ben Noyach. Vanu ein lanu elanayra marasa bilvad. We only have a techlik between ayra marasa. Says the Gemara of nami. What do you mean? We just said another chilik. V'nechsha nami nechsha l'chuppah v'noyad l'loy nivala. And says the Gemara, Aitana Tana Tvei Menashe Damar Kol Misa Amura B'nei Noyach Einai Ella Chaneku is only a din of chanek, and that's going to be ID v'ID chaneku. Both these cases will get chanek. Says the Gemara, 1 second. We're discussing the Bnei Noyach. Says the Gemara, V'sava Rameir Kol Erva Shebezin Sheisam Amisin Aleh Ben Noyach Muzar Aleh. Are you telling me there are mayors of the opinion that any erva which in our court system there would be memisin, there would be a death penalty? Ben Noyach is mozar. How could that be? Vatanya, we learned in a brayse ger with regarding a ger shaisa hayrasa shelai b'kedusha v'leidasa b'kedusha. We have a ger. Hayrasa means the conception of this child was where? Was shalai b'kedusha. But then v'leidasa, this woman gives birth b'kedusha once she is a yid. The halacha is yesh lai she'er ha'im. This child has she'er, has relatives of the mother. But she'er ha'av. Because again, the fact that the child is born into, or from, I should say, a Yiddish woman, the leido was b'kedusha. That gives this child the halachas of she'er ha'im and not she'er ha'av. If this child marries achaisei minaim yoitzi, that he has to send her out. Minav, though yikayim, he's not considered to be married from the relative minav. Achaisei minaim yoitzi, minav yikayim. Achaisei minaim yoitzi, achaisei minav. Remember yoitzi chamer oimrim yikayim. Why? Shahaya Rabbi Meir Oimer Kol Erva. So says the Gemara in a simple way. Again, the examples, the cases you just have to work out. But through the mother, this child has relatives. So those will be illegal relationships. But through the father, it is not. Continues the Gemara, Umutar Be'ishes Achiv, the wife of his brother, Ubeishes Achei Aviv, V'shar Kol Arayis Mutaris Lai. All other ayahs are mutter to this child. Le'asuye, Ishes Aviv, the wife of his father. Part A of the Brisa. Continues the Brisa. Nasa, what happens if this woman marries Nasa Isha Ubita Kaines? Nasa Isha Ubita. If a non-Jew marries a woman and her daughter, and then there's a gerus. Kaines achas u'maitzi achas. One of them he can say married to, and then there'll be the marriage as a regular yid. But the other one he has to send out. He should not marry them. If his wife dies, mutar b'chamaisa. So says the Gemara, Vikatiyami, Asr b'chamaisai, Asr with his mother-in-law. But what do we see after this? A lot of examples over here. But what do we see? We see that we have a stira in Rameir. Because Rameir a moment ago taught us earlier that a ben noyach is usher to have any form of arayis, which a yid would get misa for. But what does Rameir over here say? Rameir over here says that a ger is allowed to marry the wife of his father. Why? Because the ben noyach would be allowed to do that. But the problem is, in such a case, in our system, there would be misa. So the rule, again, what was the rule that we had in the bottom of Amud Beis? The rule was in the last line, Kol erva sheben zishama misa lebenach muzar lehel. But we just proved that we found the case that a ben noyach is not muzar, and yet a ben Yisrael is mason, and vice versa. So Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, Loi kasha, Rameir leaves Rav Elazar, Rameir leaves Rav Akiva. Two different opinions within Rameir. Titanya, we learned in our Brayis, Alkin Yazev ish as aviv as imai. Therefore, one shall leave his father and his mother and stay with his wife. Rabbi Eliezer Aimer aviv. What the pasuk says, he should leave aviv. That means achais aviv. Imai means achais imai. Rabbi Kiva Aimer aviv. Jesus aviv. Imai is imai mamish. So according to Rabbi Kiva, a ben noyach is aser only from arayis, which there would be misa by a yid. Which according to Rav Elazar, that's not the reason. As Rav Elazar, it was more broad, and who he included in the iser. That's the Gemara Vidavak. Now, this is a classical case. We're in the middle of quoting a brisa with the machlekes of Rav Elazar and Rav Kiva. Why? Because those were the two opinions of Rameir. And now we quote the end of the Bryce. The end of the Bryce has really nothing to do with what we're talking about. Once we quote the Bryce, we quote the end of the Bryce. Says the Bryce of Vidavak, he should be with his wife. V'loi b'zachar. But he's not allowed to be with a zachar. You're not allowed to have mishkav zachar. From the fact that it's Vidavak v'ishtai shows us that it has to be a davak, has to be a dveikos, like Rashi, has to be a hanadika union, and therefore one cannot be together with a zachar. Be'ishtai v'loi be'ishes chaveiroi, not together with his friend's wife. V'hayu lebasar echad, says the pasuk, and they become one flesh. Mishanasim basar echad. This means someone, the union which is allowed, the relationships which are allowed are that which creates one flesh. Yatsa, this comes to exclude behema v'chaya she'ein nasin basar echad. The relations with the behema and chaya do not become basar echad because there's no way that relations with an animal could bear a child. The birth of the child is that which brings the union into an echad, into a one, via the child, which would not be able by a behema. And that's where we learn out the Isser of Mishkav Behima. Says the Gemara, let's go a little bit deeper into the Machlekes of Lazar and Rekiva Amar Mar. Lazar asked the Gemara, Ema of Imamish, Hainu V'Davak V'Loi B'Zachar. He can't be with the father, he can't be with the Zachar. Ema Ishes Aviv, Hainu B'Ishtai V'Loi B'Ishes Chaveiron. Ema La'acher Misa Dumya De'imai. Ma Imai Delav Ishos, Avaviv Delav Ishos. Imai achais imai, ve'ima imai mamish, hainu be'ishtoi v'lo be'isht chaveiroi, ve'ima la'acher, misa demi da'aviv, ma'aviv delav mamish, af imai delav mamish. That's the sheet of Rav Eliezer. Rav Kiva imer aviv, ishes aviv, ve'ima aviv mamish, hainu be'davek v'lo be'zachar. Ihach ishes aviv nami, hainu be'ishtoi v'lo be'isht chaveiroi, la'acher, misas imai, imai mamish, hainu be'ishtoi v'lo be'isht chaveiroi, imai me'oinsai. So therefore, hainu be'ishtoi v'lo be'ishes chaveiroi, says Gemara, imai me'anu sasai. This means an imai who was with a relationship of anus with the father, that's also forbidden. So says the Gemara, b'mai kamifli. What is at the crux, what is at the root of this machlokes between Rav Elazar and Rav Akiva? Rav Elazar, as we turn over to Nun Chesem Beis, Rav Elazar savar aviv dumya de'imai. The pasuk puts aviv and imai together. What does that teach us? Says the Gemara, Aviv is dumya de imay. The imay is dumya de aviv. Loi mishkachas lo ella, says the Gemara, be'ach chava. We have only found a similarity between the two through achava, which is that there's a commonality between the two in their level of relationship. Rav Akiva says, "Mutav la'ukmi be'ishes aviv." Why? Why do we rise the ishes aviv? The ikri ervas aviv, because that's called ervas aviv. Lafuki achayis aviv, which comes to exclude achayis aviv. To share aviv ikri, which is called she'er, the relative of the father, but ervas aviv loy ikri. End of what the machlokes of Lazar and Rav Akiva is. So now we have Shitas of Lazar that a ben Noach is usher to marry his father's sister. Tashima asked the Gemara 5 lines. Amra married Yocheved, his aunt. My lam deidasim in aim, so we see an aunt via the mother is allowed. Loi deidasim in av, so it's no raya. Tashima asked about another kasha. V'gama manach oisi baz avivi ach loi bas imi, says Gar mechlal tebas aim asura. This sounds like the daughter of one's mother is asur even to ben Noach. Responds the Gemara, V'tizra, what's your kasha? Achaysei avai, lamaisa, it's a sister. Bas achav avai, she's not actually the sister. We're talking about Sarah and Avram in the Psukim. Not actually a sister. It's the daughter of his brother. It's a niece. V'kivan da'achiyu, and since that's the reality, lo yishna min eim, lo yishna min av, lo yishna min eim, a niece is Sharia. Ela Hasam, says the Gemara, achi kamarla, what's going on over there? Korva da'achos isli ba'ada me'abba v'loi mi'ima. Avraham Avinu is saying, I have a korva, I have a relationship with her from my father and not from my mother. Avram is saying the relationship level with Sarah, but of course it's not really a sister. Ask the Gemara one more time, Dashaman Rav Akiva, what is the reason Adam can I marry his daughter Kidei? Sheisa Kayin Esacha Isai. So Kayin can marry his sister. Shana Marki Amarti Oilam Chesed Yibane Halavachi. This would teach us, if not for that reason, Asira. It would be also for Kayin to marry his sister. So what do we see? This l'chayra should be a raya that a ben Noach, which of course Adam Arishan was not a yid, should be a raya that a ben Noach is also to marry his sister. Says the Gemara, Kivan the Ishtari. Once it was mutter for Kayin to marry his sister, so then any ben Noach, once you had the heter of Eilam Chesed Yibana, that applies for infant item. Says the Gemara, Amar Avuna, Kusi mutter bebita. Kusi is allowed to marry his daughter. Vim time they malay Adam as bita. Why does one not marry his daughter? Why did what's the reason Adam not marry his daughter? So Kayin can marry his sister Misham. Aylam Chesed Yibana. Vigadi Amri Amar Avuna. Kusi Aser bebita. Teda bring your right to Las Adam as bita. V'lo is achu Asam and time Kadesh Isa Kayin is a Chaysai Misham to Aylam Chesed Yibana. And therefore you can't bring a raya over there. Amar Rav Chisda. With this we're going to wrap up today's shir. Eved Motor be'imay u'motor bebita. Moving along from a ben Noach into the discussion of what is the din of an Eved. An Eved Kanaini could marry his mother and his daughter. Why? So an Eved is a middle level. It's not a Kuti and it's not a Yisrael. And therefore what's going to happen is he can marry his mother and he can marry his daughter. Says the Gemara, Ki Asar Avdimi Amar Rav Elazar Amar Rav Chanina Ben Noach Shiyached Shivcha Liyavdoya Ben Noach that gives a shivcha to an Eved, Uba Aleha, and the Eved is together with the shivcha. Nerag Aleha. That's also he's going to get killed. Says the Gemara, Me'imasai. At what point? Amrav Nachme Medikairi La Rabisa Diplania. You know where we learn this out from? From the time in the town they call her the save of so and so. When she has a shame shivcha to one person, at that moment there will be an isser to be with someone else. Says the Gemara, Me'imasai Hatorah. And when is it mutter? Amravuna mishapara roisha bishak, when she uncovers her head in the marketplace. And here we see a fascinating detail that in that Bisman Chazal, even the Goyim used to cover their hair when they were married. And therefore, if this girl goes to the shuk with her Parua Roisha, her head uncovered, that shows us she's no longer a slave designated to one mishpacha, shows us she's Ki'ilu, a single girl, and then one will be able to take her for his own Evid. Amar Rav Elazar, Rav Chanina ben Noach Shava al Ishtoi, a ben Noach that's together with his wife Shaloi Kedarkoi, Chayiv Shenemar V'Davak V'Loi Shaloi Kedarkoi. It says he should be davak to his wife, which teaches us from there that he should not be with her Shaloi Kedarkoi. And therefore, we have a unique halacha that a ben Noach will have this Isser, that there's no dveikus over here if it was a bia shaloi kedarkoi. Amar Rava, what? Mika midi. The Yisrael loy mechayev. A Yid is not chayev for such an act. Vakuti mechayev, how could that be? So therefore says Rava Elam Rava ben Noach Shaval Ishes Chaveroi shaloi kedarkoi potter. Why? My time of beishtav lo ish chavera v'davak lo shaloi kedarkoi. So there won't be an Isser, a rayis of a ben Noach with a biash like Kedarkoi. Amar Rav Chanina, with this will conclude. Akum shehikas Yisrael chayiv misa. If a guy hits a yid, he's chayiv misa. Shenamar v'ivin koy v'koy Moshe Rabbeinu v'yer ki ish aven v'yachas v'mitzvi v'goyim v'amar Chanina asoiter. Says Rav Chanina, loya loy shel Yisrael. One slaps the loya, the jaw of a yid. Kilu soiter loya shel shchinetz. Kilu you're slapping Kadosh Baruch Hu. Shenamar moikish adam yala kodesh, that a person destroys the holiness when you hit him. That's the power of a yid. We'll stop over here. We'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmayu.